What if I told you that love could feel just like an addiction? That the highs are euphoric, the lows are agonizing, and no matter how much it hurts, you just can't walk away. Prince Harry's desperate reaction to losing contact with Meghan early in their relationship wasn't just anxiety. It was a sign of something much deeper, something I'll show you through a story that might feel uncomfortably familiar. So, if this sounds interesting to you, sit back, relax, and get ready. We're going to get into this, but before we begin, here's the intro. Welcome to Revealing the Narc. Join me as I highlight narcissistic traits in celebrities and public figures. Everything here is in my opinion and not professional advice. If you enjoy the analysis, please like and subscribe. Hi, everyone. I was reading through Spare and I came across an incident that happened very early on in Harry and Meghan's relationship. I believe this event is occurring directly after their trip to Botswana. Meg was going to fly back home while Harry was going to meet with the president of Botswana to discuss conservation issues, and then he was embarking on a three-phase trip with his male friends. During this trip, he goes jet skiing with his friends, and the jet ski flips over. His phone landed in the water. I'm going to read you a little excerpt of his reaction in his book Spare. It begins. Then I looked at the jet ski, floating on its side. My iPhone with all my photos and phone numbers. Meg! The jet ski came to rest on the sandbar. We flipped it right, and I grabbed my phone from the console. Soaked. Ruined. All the photos Meg and I had taken, plus all our texts. That was the end of the passage. His friends told him to put his phone in rice, and that would help soak out any water that had made it inside his phone. He then continues in Spare and says, I looked down, highly dubious. How long will this take? A day or two. No good. I need a solution now. Mike and I worked out a plan. I could write a letter to Meg, which he'd take home with him. Tish could then photograph the letter and text it to Meg. She had Meg's number on her phone. I'd given it to her when she first went to collect Meg from the airport. End of passage there. I'm going to skip ahead again and I'm going to read you what was in the letter. The passage begins. Hey, beautiful. Okay, you got me. Can't stop thinking about you. Missing you. Lots. Phone went in river. Sad face. Apart from that, having an amazing time. Wish you were here. End of passage. What struck me about this was this anxiety and almost fear and panic that Harry's having losing his phone. And he's not concerned about any of his other conversations being gone, any of his other photos being gone, only the ones relating to Meghan. In my opinion, this situation screams trauma bonding, emotional dependency, and not healthy love. What I'm going to do in this video is talk about all of these things. And at the end, I'm going to tell a fictional story to see if this any way relates to you or resonates with you. So let's get into the analysis. Why is Harry's reaction significant? The first reason is a fear of displeasing her. In my opinion, his response sounds extreme, and it suggests he might have already internalized the idea that being out of touch could lead to punishment, withdrawal, or emotional volatility from Meghan. This aligns with how narcissists create anxiety in their partners, subtly making them feel that disconnection equals abandonment or conflict. And I think this indicates an addiction to the highs and the lows. The obsessive need to reach her, combined with the extreme measures, mirrors the dopamine-driven cycle of trauma bonding. When narcissists love bomb, they create an intense emotional rush that their partners become addicted to. Losing contact might have felt like withdrawal to Harry, leading to desperate measures to connect. There's also a shifting power dynamic. This behavior shows that Harry might have already been emotionally under her control, whether consciously or subconsciously. What I didn't mention is on the third leg of his trip, he picks up a satellite phone in order to be able to stay in contact with her. This isn't a normal solution, in my opinion, for vacationing with friends. It's an obsessive response to anticipated consequences. If she were secure and loving, she would have reassured him not created an environment where he felt compelled to go to such lengths. Is this love bombing? Not on Harry's end. He's the one being love bombed, or at this stage, he's possibly already trauma bonded. If Megan responded in a way that made him feel like a hero for getting back in touch, rather than laughing it off as an overreaction, she likely reinforced this behavior. This is how narcissists keep partners hooked by rewarding obsessive devotion and subtly punishing independence. Is this like an addiction? Absolutely. His anxiety, compulsive need to contact her, and the lengths he went to are all hallmarks of emotional addiction. Love bombing creates a dependency where the victim starts needing constant validation from the narcissist. If Megan conditioned him early on that she was the source of his emotional highs and lows, then his reaction makes sense. It's anxiety driven dependence, not healthy love. This moment in his memoir really exposes the power imbalance and emotional conditioning in their relationship. If this was his mindset early on, imagine how deeply entrenched it is now. Let's get into trauma bonding. Trauma bonding is a psychological phenomenon where a person forms a deep emotional attachment to someone who is intermittently cruel, manipulative, or emotionally unavailable. It's a powerful and addictive bond that develops when periods of intense affection, love bombing, are mixed with periods of neglect, criticism, or emotional withdrawal. This cycle creates dependency, anxiety, and a feeling of being trapped, often without the victim recognizing it. So let's start with the first step, the love bombing. At the start of the relationship, the narcissist showers their partner with affection, admiration, and they create a sense of soulmate connection, a feeling that they are the most special, understanding, and exciting person in their partner's life. The victim experiences euphoric highs, which release dopamine, which is the brain's pleasure chemical, and it creates an emotional addiction. Step two is the intermittent reinforcement. The roller coaster begins. The narcissist suddenly withdraws affection, becomes cold, or creates conflict for seemingly no reason. Just when the victim starts feeling abandoned or confused, the narcissist throws them a breadcrumb of love or validation. This back and forth strengthens the addiction, just like how a gambler keeps playing despite losing because they might win in the next round. The third step is cognitive dissonance, a twisting reality. The victim starts rationalizing the narcissist behavior. They love me, they're just stressed. Maybe I'm the problem. I just need to try harder. The brain struggles to reconcile the extreme highs and lows, leading to self blame, confusion, and emotional exhaustion. And finally, step four, fear of loss. The trap closes. The victim becomes terrified of losing the relationship, believing that the narcissist is their only source of happiness. They chase the highs, desperately trying to bring back the early love bombing phase. The more they invest emotionally, the harder it becomes to leave because leaving would mean accepting that the relationship was never what they thought it was. Why does trauma bonding feel like an addiction? The love bombing phase floods the victim's brain with the pleasure neurotransmitter dopamine and the bonding hormone oxytocin, creating a biochemical attachment. When affection is withdrawn, the victim experiences withdrawal symptoms similar to drug addiction, anxiety, depression, and an intense craving for their partner's validation. The intermittent rewards strengthen the bond. Studies show that rewards given inconsistently create the strongest psychological attachments, just like gambling addiction. The unpredictability of the narcissist's behavior makes the victim try even harder to please them, desperately seeking the next high. So, how does this relate to Harry and Meghan? In the scenario where Harry panicked when he lost contact with Meghan, it suggests that he was already experiencing anxious attachment and withdrawal like symptoms at the thought of disconnection. His response was disproportionate. Most people on vacation wouldn't go to such extremes to stay in touch unless they feared a negative consequence, such as silent treatment, emotional withdrawal, or guilt tripping. He prioritized her needs over his own relaxation and friendships, which is a classic sign of trauma bonding, where the victim constantly seeks to appease their partner to maintain the peace. If Megan used love bombing and intermittent reinforcement, Harry could have developed a dependency on her approval, making him feel emotionally starved when he wasn't connected to her. Let's talk a little bit about breaking the trauma bond if someone realizes that they're in one. Recognize the pattern. Awareness is the first step. Victims must understand that their partner's behavior follows a manipulative cycle designed to create dependency. Detox from emotional addiction, going no contact or limited contact, can help break the biochemical hold of the bond. Rebuilding self trust. Many victims lose trust in their own judgment. Therapy, journaling, and self reflection help regain independence. Understanding that the highs were manipulation. The love bombing phase wasn't real love, it was a tactic to trap them. Real love doesn't require constant anxiety, fear, or emotional contortions. A few concluding thoughts before we go to the next topic. Harry's reaction suggests that he was already conditioned to seek her approval and prioritize her emotional needs above his own well being. The anxiety, the desperation, and the extreme measures he took to stay in touch all indicate a trauma bond rather than a secure, loving attachment. I want to delve deeper into the addiction aspect of trauma bonding. Trauma bonding creates an emotional addiction that functions almost identically to substance addiction. The victim experiences highs during love bombing and lows during withdrawal, devaluation, and discard, which keeps their brain in a constant state of craving, fear, and hope. Just like an addict chasing the next high, a trauma bonded person obsesses over the narcissist's validation, excuses the bad behavior, and struggles to break free even when they know the relationship is toxic. The dopamine cycle is the key to understanding this addiction. Love bombing floods the brain with dopamine, creating an emotional high. Devaluation removes the reward, leading to a crash, the withdrawal. The victim desperately tries to regain the high, staying in the relationship and working harder and harder for validation. Intermittent reinforcement strengthens the addiction because they occasionally get a glimpse of the love bombing phase, which convinces them to stay. This cycle rewires the brain, making the victim dependent on the narcissist for emotional regulation, just like a drug addict depends on a substance to feel normal. To conclude this video, I want to tell you a fictional story that puts all of this into perspective. The story is called The Love That Hooked Me. Lena had never felt a love like this before. When she met Adrian, he was everything she had ever dreamed of: charming, attentive, and completely obsessed with her in the best way possible. From the very beginning, he made her feel like the most special, irreplaceable woman in the world. "You're perfect," he told her, running his fingers through her hair. "Where have you been all my life?" He sent long, passionate texts every morning. He made big, romantic gestures: flowers, handwritten notes, and spontaneous weekend getaways. She felt like she was living in a fairy tale. "This is it. This is the love I've been waiting for." One evening, after weeks of bliss, she texted Adrian, "Hey babe, how was your day?" No response. Minutes passed, then hours. She checked her phone obsessively, feeling a strange wave of panic rise in her chest. Had she done something wrong? Was he mad at her? Finally, after 12 hours, he replied, "Busy, talk later." That was it. No emojis, no sweetness, just cold detachment. Her heart sank. The next day, Adrian was back to his loving, affectionate self, acting as if nothing had happened. "I just get overwhelmed sometimes," he explained. "You're so emotional, babe. You have to relax." She ignored the pit in her stomach. Maybe he was right. Maybe she was overreacting. So she let it go. And then it happened again. and again. Some days he was sweet and affectionate, telling her she was the love of his life. Other days he was distant and cold, acting like she was annoying him just by existing. But every time she pulled away, every time she considered leaving, he would pull her back in with just enough love to make her stay. I don't know what I'd do without you. You're my soulmate. Don't give up on us. I know I get distant sometimes, but it's only because I love you so much it scares me. And just like that, she was hooked again. Lena started changing without realizing it. She stopped speaking up when something upset her because she was afraid of pushing him away. She checked her phone obsessively, waiting for his next message, her mood entirely dependent on whether he was warm or cold that day. She defended his behavior to her friends, saying, "You just don't understand him like I do." She made excuses for the way he treated her, convincing herself that the sweet moments were the real Adrian and the cold ones were just his wounds talking. She was no longer in love, she was addicted. Every time he withdrew, she went into emotional withdrawal, craving his love like a drug. And every time he came back, she felt euphoric relief, like an addict getting their next fix. One day, after another argument where Adrian blamed her for everything and then stormed out, Lena sat on her bed staring at her phone. Her heart was racing. Would he text? Would he come back? And then a thought hit her. Why am I sitting here waiting for someone who keeps making me feel this way? She scrolled through their messages, the same cycle, over and over again. Passion, then distance, then guilt, then love bombing, and repeat. She realized that she wasn't in a healthy relationship. She was in a casino of love where the house always won, and she was the fool pulling the lever, hoping for a jackpot that would never come. And that's when she did something she never thought she'd do. She blocked his number. She expected to feel panic, but instead, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: relief, because she finally saw the truth. Real love doesn't feel like a gamble. It doesn't leave you feeling anxious, sick, and desperate for the next hit. Real love doesn't make you question your worth. And once she realized that, the addiction started to break. And that is where our story ends. I'm interested to know what you all think about this. If you feel comfortable sharing, please leave your thoughts, your experiences in the comments. If this was interesting to you, please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified every time I drop a new video. I want to thank you for listening, and I will talk to you all soon. Goodbye. If Valentine's Day with a narcissist feels more like an emotional obstacle course than a celebration of love, you're not alone. This day can be incredibly triggering for them, which means it often becomes painful for you. That's why I put together a guide called Surviving Valentine's Day with a Narcissist: Protecting Your Peace. Inside, I break down why this holiday brings out their worst, the tactics they use, and most importantly, how you can protect your energy. There are also some journaling prompts and recovery strategies to help you process everything afterwards. You can grab it now on my Patreon. I'll leave the link in the description. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video.